we're going to be discussing Explore Interactive in Sprint 2. I'd like to start by introducing ourselves. We are Team Co-op. We're comprised of Aaron, myself, Jason, Jasmine, and Lizzie. Today we're going to go through the agenda a little bit, talk about Sprint from last week. We're going to also talk about some brainstorming that we've been participating in and how it came to help us develop our concepts. We'll discuss how our concept testing went, the results of that, giving us ideas on where to move forward to, and we'll also have some time for feedback for you at the end. So first, we'll circle back around, discuss the briefly. We're working with an augmented reality game that focuses on teaching STEM education. So that would be science, technology, engineering, mathematics. One of the first games that is played in it is Energy and Circuits. And that game focuses on 3rd to 6th grade students. So some of our preliminary research that we went through and did, we started off by doing domain research on the topics of STEM education, augmented reality, AR games, and EdTech, or that would be technology and education. From this, we derived some possible competitors. Unimmersive is a model-based virtual reality game, or a model-based education. Z-Space is education utilizing augmented reality. It is not game-based. There's Osmo, kids-based game for home, which uses augmented reality. We have Tinker, which is a browser-based learning tool that teaches kids coding. And then we have Minecraft, which is home gaming that's also integrating augmented reality as well. So after analyzing the competitors, we went through and had a pretty good idea how Explore Interactive could be integrated into these industries. We developed a problem statement and some guiding design principles as we started moving forward. So teachers of 3rd through 6th grade students need a supplemental tool for their STEM lessons in order to engage their students in a fun and meaningful experience and build positive connotations to STEM that engage further exploration. From that, we derived some design principles that we thought might help us as we're going through and designing out pieces for this. The first one would be fostering growth. We also want to make sure whatever we design is going to be easy to implement. We also are looking at having it drive home, so everything we do kind of helps reinforce the story that's going along with it. And then we also want to make sure that no one has to have any previous experience in what we're talking about. So from this, we developed a couple of personas that this might target towards. The first one being our teacher persona, Bonnie. Bonnie has some goals of making sure that the games she uses in her classroom address her curriculum. She also wants to explore new and interesting ways to teach. Some of the things that she's frustrated with are her time constraints. She wants to make sure that what she's working with her students is going to have real-world applications. And she also wants to make sure that whatever technology she chooses is designed well. Next, we have our second persona, who is our student, Brody. Brody's goal is to make sure that he understands his lessons so he can go home and do his homework. He also wants to be able to showcase his creativity and his interest. Some of his frustrations are that he finds just reading and writing is not his favorite way to go about learning. And he also enjoys having more than one chance to answer a question correctly. Whenever he is gaming in an educational environment, he does become a little insecure when he is not winning. So I'm going to hand it off to Jasmine now. She'll continue for us.
All right, so with last week's research in mind, along with the problem statement, design principles, and these personas, we started developing our concepts. And this started with some group brainstorming. So this is just to give you a quick visual. We used a few methods, so mind mapping, linking related words together. We did a little bit of brute think, so coming up with nouns or pictures and thinking of adjectives or features that might relate to our product. And this brainstorming helped us kind of narrow in on our ideas or concepts to start sketching them out. So while we were sketching them out, we wanted to keep these elements in mind from our initial challenge. So onboarding, engagement, error handling with the overarching idea of storytelling. So these would help frame our concepts going forward. And we came up with about 10 concepts. I'll walk you through a high level of what they are, and then Lizzie and Aaron will dive into the details. But the first one we had is called balance. And this was an element where the player was notified of an error by the screen tilting. We had an elevator concept where the user was introduced to the game. We had go back later, where the player could progress through the game and then correct their mistakes at the end. Avatar creation, where the player could customize the characters. We had what was called a build controller, which was basically a reward system within the game. We had a teacher dashboard, where the teacher could track progress and statistics of her class throughout the game. Data collection, which was part of the onboarding process, collecting name and information from the student. A control panel, and this was a way for the user to get information or help during the game. And we had error alert and error message, and these were ways to alert the user that they did something wrong while they were playing the game. So the idea here is that we wanted to get as many concepts together as we could so that we could set us up for a successful concept testing, which Lizzie will explain more about.
Alright, so I'm going to take you through some of our concept testing. First, we sketched out our ideas and created simple paper prototypes. And then we recruited 6 people to be our test participants, 4 teachers and 2 students. And the purpose of our concept testing was really for us to gauge what people's reactions were to our ideas. Were they familiar in any way? Could they see a real world application? Did they make sense? And did they have a positive or negative reaction to the idea overall? So thinking about those questions, we were able to see which concepts tested well and which ones did not. We identified 6 concepts that we wanted to move forward with for further exploration and development. The first of those is the control panel. And you can see in this second image, this is a way to visualize how this concept might be used during gameplay. But the idea behind the control panel is that it would be a space that would house the player's game data and objectives, as well as be a vehicle for advancing the story of the game in a way that would take advantage of the augmented reality technology of Explore Interactive. And the control panel was inspired by 2 design principles. One, fostering growth, because it would give the player a way to see their goals and objectives. And that was something that really tested well with our users. They found that if there was a way to see their progression in some way, or goals or objectives, they found that to be really motivating. And then the second design principle that inspired this idea is drive it home, because this is a way to use storytelling as a teaching tool. And then our second concept that we're going to move forward with is really kind of a combination of 2 concepts that we think fit together really nicely. And that is an error alert. So a way to let the player know if they've done something correctly or incorrectly. And then building on that, they have an optional way to get more information on that error. And testers really found that this was helpful to get that immediate feedback, whether a task was done correctly or not. And they also liked that if they needed more help, there was a way to get that. And 2 principles that this concept was built on are fostering growth by letting players learn through trial and error, as well as giving them some positive feedback when they do something correctly. And then also no previous experience necessary. So there's a way to get more information and a way to learn from your mistakes as you go. And this was also really inspired by Brody's persona, because something he felt like he struggled with was playing games that he didn't get a second chance or know why he did something wrong. So this concept was inspired by him as well. And now I'm going to let Aaron talk about our next concepts.
The third concept that we have is the creation of the teacher dashboard. And this would allow the teacher to monitor and customize the experience for their students, as well as track their progress through the app. This concept tested well with teachers, and it closely aligned with our problem statement and design principles, specifically drive it home, because allowing the teacher to monitor the progress of their students, it allowed them to catch potential pain points that their student might have, and it would assist them in further engaging the student, as well as easy to implement, because it would be a one-time setup, and the students could just jump right in and start playing the game. The next concept that we tested well, was the avatar creation. And this concept, it allows students to use a photo of themselves and personalize it to a robot character that could be implemented into the game. Our domain research showed that to increase engagement in augmented reality games, it's a good idea to get the user into the game as a character. And this matched our design principle of drive it home, because further engaging the user into the game by becoming part of the game. And getting into the game, it brings us to our last concept, which is the elevator concept. And the elevator concept plays into the user's real world experience with elevators, except instead of arriving at a new floor, the user would be introduced into the augmented world. Users like the visual representation of the panel because it gave them an idea of where they were within the game, and the doors opening also provided an exciting way to be introduced into the gaming platform. For these reasons, this concept embodies the ideas behind our drive at home and no previous experience needed, because it engages the user into the game while also staying simple enough to where the user does not need any advanced skills for operation to be successful. So far in our process, we have done a deep dive into the domain that Explore Interactive is situated in, talked to users to pinpoint areas that could be improved upon, then took some of those areas and developed some concepts to help alleviate these issues. Finally, we tested these concepts to ensure they would be understood by the user, and at this point we have 5 concepts that we feel are pretty solid and match our problem statement and our design principles really well, and we'll be moving into wireframing and prototyping those ideas out in mid-fidelity and follow that up with another round of testing to see what further iterations might be needed. And that is the end of our presentation. We'd like to thank you for coming, and we'll now open the floor to any feedback.